Good evening, everyone. It is now 5:30, and I will call this regular City Council work session to order. But before we do that, let me just remind everyone that we are in person and virtual. We're still in the COVID pandemic environment, and so members of the public may also attend the meeting virtually via Zoom, webinar, and by conference call. You can watch the meeting at Comcast Cable Channel 16 or 859, or online at www.burnsvillemn.gov/meetings. If you wish to speak during the meeting in person or via telephone or Zoom, please call or email cityclerk@burnsvillemn.gov or 952-895-4490 if you wish to speak to an item at the meeting, or if you have a question about connecting to speak during the meeting. We ask that you notify the city clerk an hour before the meeting that you wish to speak, or to call during the meeting 651-372-8299, or using Zoom to participate, https://zoom.us/join. The meeting ID is 981-2043-9491. Again, that ID is 981-2043-9491. You can also see the meeting agenda on our webpage. Okay, this is a work session, and we're very informal, and we go directly to the items that are before us. And the first item on the agenda this evening is the 360 presentation, and Ms. Jenny Faulkner, our Community Development Director, is going to introduce our guest this evening, the CEO of 360 Communities. Ms. Faulkner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Tonight we have a presentation from Jeff Mortensen, the President and CEO of 360's Communities. It's been a while since we've had 360's come before you, and I know you know this, but I just want to reiterate that they're an amazing organization that are doing wonderful things for our communities south of the river. So they did receive a CARES grant from you as one of kind of the premier nonprofits serving our community during this challenging time. And so partially want to make sure our community is aware of them and their services and give you an opportunity to speak directly with Jeff and answer any questions you may have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Mortensen. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here to share about 360 Communities, and we are proud to have our headquarters located right here in Burnsville. So really appreciate the city and the work that you do to support our organization through many different efforts that you'll learn a little bit about here tonight. But I want to start out with just an overview of the organization, and then we'll move through that and get more into the detail of what specifically is happening with our services located in Burnsville, so you can get a sense for what's happening right here locally. But starting out, you'll see on the screen there, 360 Communities, Help in the Moment, Hope for the Future. Help in the Moment, Hope for the Future is our tagline. And believe it suits us very well, and that there's kind of two, if I think across the organization in real simple terms across all our programs, what we're doing is we're meeting people in the moment, whatever crisis or situation they might have, and we're helping them in that moment. While we're doing that, we're working very hard to build trust in a relationship so that we can uncover the deeper things that are going on in that household or that person's life, and start to put things in place with them so that there is greater hope for the future and stability movement in the future. So you can go ahead and cue the next. Yep. So as we think again across the whole organization, this is really the work that we're doing. It boils down to we're intervening and we're stabilizing whatever that crisis situation might be. Then we're working to support the individual or the household. That could involve goal planning, that could involve advocacy in certain areas. what we're also doing is we've got an eye towards, are there children in the house? If there are, how do we start to put things in place that help to break the cycles? And also, what are we doing to prevent? So really at a high level, across the organization, you can think of our work that way. Next slide. This is our mission. 360 Communities deliver safety and stability that improves lives. And the next slide will show us the outcomes. So again, at a very high level, these are the kind of things we're accomplishing. We're decreasing domestic and sexual violence. We're increasing family stability, reducing homelessness, providing access to healthy food. We're preventing child abuse and neglect. We're improving early childhood development. We're in the schools increasing high school graduation rate, and we raise community awareness about needs. So a whole host of different areas that we're working in. The next slide is gonna help you see a little bit more granular at kind of our program level. But if you look in the middle of that circle, you'll see three key areas. Those are really the three big impact areas. We work in the area of violence prevention and intervention. So we help victims of domestic and sexual violence. We work in the area of schools, helping kids succeed in school. That can be from birth through 12th grade. And then we've got this community resources area, which is about helping people that are working through poverty. Our organization is co-located in about 45 locations throughout Dakota County. We have about 1,200 volunteers that support our organization on an annual basis. We couldn't do the work we do without volunteers. It's phenomenal. We've got roughly 75 to 80 staff, depending on the time of year. We're about just under $7 million organization. But you can see here, these are some of the programs. We've got 5 food shelves located throughout Dakota County. We've got a holiday program called Armful of Love. We've got 2 resource centers, one in Burnsville, one in Rosemont, both linked to a food shelf. Lewis houses are our domestic and sexual violence shelters. We have that in Egan Lewis House, and Hastings Lewis House. We have sexual assault services that works throughout the county. Outreach and education is really focused on that domestic and sexual violence space. We do a lot of presentations to raise awareness about that important issue in the community. Partners for Success is our school-based program. We're in 29 schools across 6 school districts across the county, focused on helping kids succeed in school, because of course, if we can get them set on the right trajectory, we will prevent them from needing, hopefully, from needing some of our other services in the future when they become adults. Same reason that we look very closely at early childhood and get involved there. Our Child Care Aware program works with licensed and unlicensed daycare centers to help improve the quality of the experience that kids are having in those daycare centers, because that will help set them on a developmental track that improves their ability to do well in school. So that, at, again, kind of a real high level, is what the organization is doing across the board. Now, the next slide, I think, starts to drill. Oh, the next slide is more COVID. I wanted to give you a COVID update. Obviously, a different kind of time here over this last year. And here are some of the trends that we're seeing across the organization. Increased stress for people, obviously, and those include financial stress, unemployment, housing instability, mental health concerns with people. We're seeing, at our domestic and sexual violence shelters, we're seeing an increase in the length of stays that people are staying there or needing to stay there. We're seeing that communities of color, as well as the working poor, have been disproportionately affected during the COVID time. And we're also seeing people that never thought they would use our services, using our services. So those are some of the things we've experienced as far as trends. And the next slide will show how we have responded to some of that. So across the board, we have had to, as everybody has, implement whole different levels of safety and cleaning protocol. The programs have remained open through the entire time period across our organization. We've had to adjust how some of those look. Our food shelves, for instance, instead of a client choice model where people could come in and work with somebody to shop for their own food, we had to move that to more of a drive-up model. Things like that, we've had to adjust how we use volunteers in order to create better social distancing. I will say though, we've got volunteers that are in the older population that are a little more at risk, that have been some of our core volunteers. Some of those did not feel comfortable, so we had to replace those with younger volunteers. Many of them continued to feel comfortable coming in, and actually we heard a lot about how that was their place of wellness and mental health. They love to continue to come in, and we're grateful for that. We have been able to add additional programming, people, staff that work directly with people, as in a direct response to some of these trends and the increasing needs that we're seeing. We needed to add capacity there. And so we've done some of that very recently at our resource centers in particularly. So let's go to the next slide. And that will start to get a little more specific in Burnsville. So I'm speaking to, with this slide, this really speaks to the Burnsville Resource Center and Food Shelf. So during last fiscal year, we served, you can see, over 4,000 individuals, and they served over 18,000 services out of that community, out of that Burnsville facility. We distributed almost 800,000 pounds of food out of that facility alone. As an organization, we distributed about 1.8 million pounds of food last year. So this Burnsville Resource Center and Food Shelf is a very active site for us. We've got 250 volunteers that provided more than 9,000 hours of help out of that space. And we do financial assistance out of that space as well. And a lot of that is focused on preventing homelessness. So we had specifically out of Burnsville, in that area, we had 44 people help them maintain their housing and or utilities. Some of them are utilities. And also we had helped another 25 with emergency medical situations or needs. The next slide shows, again, specific in Burnsville, some of our work around domestic and sexual violence. We are fortunate to have an advocate that is co-located in the police department right there in Burnsville. And that has been great. She's there about 2 to 3 days a week, has been the practice. And it is a great partnership being right there within the police department. We responded to 102 police calls, specifically in Burnsville related to domestic and sexual violence. We did more in-depth services with 67 victims who had filed police reports for domestic and sexual violence. We provided immediate support to 11 sexual assault survivors. We work with the hospital system, and so when a sexual assault survivor presents at the hospital, we get called immediately and send a person there to help support that victim survivor. And we also delivered 15 community presentations specifically in the Burnsville area in order to educate the population there about some of the needs and some of the things happening right there in the community. So that's specific to Burnsville. If we compare that as an organization on an annual basis, we help about 15,000 people annually across all of our services. So this Burnsville space, the Rosemont, or the Burnsville Resource Center and Food Shelf is a real critical hub for us. The next slide. One of the things that we keep an eye to is as we measure outcomes and impact, we're very intentional about continuing to try to link that to a social return. And so this is just an example of that. I talked about some of our financial assistance work. We know that every dollar that is spent to prevent somebody from being homeless creates an $8 return in social benefits, at least an $8 return. And so if we look at if we carve out just what's happening in Burnsville with our financial assistance support worker there in Burnsville, the funds that got distributed there to prevent homelessness is going to return at least $250,000 in social returns. We know that in our school-based work, there were studies done by the University of Minnesota on that. Our school-based work across the broader county returns $5 for every $1 invested in that. If we help just 4 kids graduate from high school, and we're working in that program from basically kindergarten through 12th grade, depending on the district, But if we help just 4 kids graduate on time, there's enough social return on that to pay for the entire program for the year. And this past year, we helped 41 kids graduate, and all we needed was 4 to pay for the program. So we feel really good about the good work that's happening with the team at 360 Communities through the support of volunteers and through the support of the community. And we're keeping an eye towards continuing to push ourselves to go, what's the impact that we're having beyond just these numbers of outputs, but what's really the outcome and the impact that we're having. And this kind of stuff keeps us motivated. Next slide. So this is me. And if you have any questions or want to learn more about 360 Communities, I would really encourage you to check out our website, 360communities.org. There are some really specific ways right now that people can get involved. Volunteering is key. We've got spaces that we need volunteers for at both resource centers. And if you go to our website, you'll find an easy way to see what spots are open and offer to fill those. You can also fill out a volunteer application form, just more of a general, and we'll have somebody reach out to you and figure out kind of what the right fit is. But we rely heavily on volunteers. We always have. We were started in the 70s, and we really started as a group of community members that were listening to the needs around us and responding to those needs. So that idea of volunteerism is inherent in what we do. So that's kind of one way that people can specifically help. Another way is Minnesota March Food Share. So there's a big, you've heard that I'm sure going on, is it's a big push during this time of the year to raise donations and food for local food shelves. And so we've got a goal of raising $125,000 and 125,000 pounds of food during March. The more we can raise, the more matching dollars we are eligible for, included within that broader statewide campaign. So there's information about that out on our website as well. And the third area I'll just point out is coming up after March. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And we've got a number of events that are happening during April in order to help inform what's happening in the community around sexual assault and sexual violence and ways to get involved there. So I will field questions. So I want to make sure there's time to answer what's on people's minds.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for your presentation. And, 360 continues to serve the community. I was on the board of 360 for many years, and am proud of the work that continues to unfold, and it continues to grow. So the work that 360 has offered to our community during 2020 and during COVID, because I volunteered for the senior center and picked up food for our seniors who couldn't drive and transport food, so I was doing that. And that was so well managed, going through that line and the outside and picking up food. So thank you so much. You fed a lot of people, and it was wonderful because we have a lot of seniors that live alone. And so that was a big help because I witnessed that firsthand. So thank you so much for everything that you do. And that's something that the social benefit for each dollar spent is $8 in a return on that investment. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you had a good experience. That's another trend over the past number of years that we've seen and had to respond to, is there's an increasing number of seniors who are needing to access the food shelf as a way to supplement their budget, to keep them in their homes and to keep themselves fed and to keep themselves on, if there's medication or things, they're using food shelves to supplement their budget so that they can stay stable. So thank you for being involved with that.
Yeah, and I also want to thank you because also during this time, our Burnsville Yellow Ribbon campaign helps veterans and those in the military. And we partnered with 360 to help with some of those families who needed either help with electricity, utility bills, or with transportation. and also the partnership with Lions with some of the work that we continue to do. And I'm a member of Lions, and so every month we contribute to the food shelf every month so that you can continue to have that service to our community. So thank you very much for what you do for the community.
Lions are great partners.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Elizabeth, I have a question.
Yes, Dan.
Jeff, we know that the people that are housing challenged, they struggle to get into permanent housing. And their biggest struggle is once they get into permanent housing, how do they stay in permanent housing? And from what I've read, I just read an article the other day about sometimes it doesn't last long. Is there any programs the 360 is doing to help them stay in their homes once we actually find them a place to live?
Yeah, so there's a number of things that we're doing in that housing space. So again, when we start to work with somebody, we're very much trying to look at the household dynamic and try to be as holistic as we can to understand what is happening in that space. And so depending on that, then we will connect people to various resources. Some of those we have internally, others we're well connected externally to county supports. So it's tailored to what the individual's needs are, but housing is a real issue. Once somebody is in that space, what we're very much trying to do is prevent them from being evicted or becoming homeless. And so that's where a lot of our work around financial assistance has really taken off. And we're in a place where the moratorium on eviction hasn't been lifted yet. And so that what we are seeing is before, when we'd have people coming to us with, let's say, a month's rent that they need some help with because maybe they had an unexpected medical situation, or they had a car repair that tipped their budget upside down, and now they need some help to get over this blip, right? Those are perfect candidates for financial assistance, where they have those kind of one-time needs because there was some sort of crisis that they weren't anticipating. But after we meet that need, then they're stable again, right? What we're seeing though is in the past where it was maybe a $500 to a $1,500 ask is now more like a $2,000 to a potentially $8,000 or $10,000 ask because of the moratorium on evictions and because people have had other crises and things that they're dealing with, and that wasn't the priority for them. But what's going to happen is that's going to get lifted, and then we're going to have larger financial assistance requests. And so what we've been trying to do is one of the additional staff that I talked about was a housing support manager, where they're working specifically very closely with the county to identify who are these people that are in jeopardy of becoming homeless, currently have a space though, and working with those individuals to get the right supports in place and working with the landlords to keep them stable and in their housing. So our work in that homelessness space is very much about trying to prevent people from becoming homeless and trying to stabilize their situation so that they remain in their home and don't become homeless. We do have people that are already homeless coming to us. We don't have housing. We don't manage houses, homeless shelters. We manage shelters for domestic and sexual violence victims, but not for those chronically homeless. But we have the other supports that we can provide, if appropriate, to help offset and stabilize. So we've got people that sometimes they're coming to us and they're living out of their car and trying to get back into employment. And so what we will do is work with them, provide them food, provide them connections to the Career Force Center, and support them in their situation to try and just stabilize that and get them back on their feet and stable. So it's a really, I'm glad you asked that question. It's a really big issue right now across the county.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Yep.
Thank you, Councilmember Gustafson. And I don't see any other questions, Mr. Mortensen. So thank you so much for being with us and for sharing the information.
I appreciate the opportunity to share about 360, and thank you for the continued support that you all give us.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, and this is an informational item as well. This is an update on the Economic Development Strategic Plan. And Ms. Faulkner, our Community Development Director, is going to be presenting this evening. Ms. Faulkner?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I have a brief PowerPoint presentation that should be queued up here shortly for you. We wanted to take this opportunity to check in with you on where we're at. And first and foremost, I want to thank the council for your direction and leadership in putting this plan together in 2018 and for your continued support for this. I think we've worked well as a team, you providing the direction and our Economic Development Commission as well, and then us kind of carrying out the objectives of your vision.
One
So with
moment.
that, we'll get into the next slide.
Yeah, Ms. Faulkner, I just want to welcome the members of the Economic Development Commission who's joining us this evening. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Yes, thank you for that. And we also have our economic development staff, Beth Weber and then Regina Dean. We're the three-person team leading these efforts along with help from many other colleagues at City Hall. So when we set out to do this plan in 2018, there were goals that the EDC and the council talked about. This is the city's first economic development plan or vision. So we wanted a vision, something that was long-term, something that was specific with goals and strategies that had priorities in it, and that also kind of defined the role of who's doing what. That's what the goal was of this plan. Next slide. And the priorities, there became 5 overarching priorities, and we all are very familiar with these, but real quick for those who may not be, we have Center Village, or the Burnsville County Road 42 was the #1 priority, working on image of the city and the school district, continuing development of Heart of the City, looking at our housing and commercial programs, looking at the use of them, are they appropriate, how are we communicating those, and then lastly, continuing our position as a regional destination as we have been a commercial and employment hub for so many years. So those are the priorities. Next slide. So what have we done since this plan was adopted? What have we done the last 2 years? So under County Road 42 vision, as you know, we created this Center Village Vision Plan in 2019. That is the framework for what's to come there. We're currently working on the AUAR and the special TIF legislation. I'll use the Mayor Coutz's words to set the table for redevelopment. So all those tools will be in place to make development easier, redevelopment easier. Regarding goal number 2, we did create new communication plans. So we have an economic development, communication and marketing plan, and then communications division just presented you a couple work sessions ago about their updated communications plan. We have regular partner meetings with the school district and the chamber, and certainly you've probably noticed a lot more collaboration, certainly where it makes sense between all 3 entities. Regarding Heart of the City, over the last 2 years, we adopted a transit-oriented development ordinance that's very comprehensive, that expands the zoning to all of HLC. What previously was HLC 1 and 2 is now 1, and also helps set the table for the Center Village development. And as you know, there are many projects in the pipeline, a couple of apartment buildings that opened last year, a couple more in the pipeline for this year and beyond. So work definitely continues there. Regarding goal number 4 on the housing and commercial programs, we had a work session with the EDC and the council where we talked about the priority for creating a housing plan, presented that to you. So we kind of have the goal and the guidance there, and we're looking to do some work on the energy audits and updating our webpage to have a housing section on it, improving our customer service with some more technical service improvements when it comes to permitting. That was something that came out of that process that we could do. And certainly our software with OpenGov, our community development software that will be implemented this year, will also help improve our customer service. And then lastly, our regional destination. We spent a substantial amount of time engaging the community and creating a brand. In the end, the council, you all picked You Belong Here, and it sticks. It's sticking and it's everywhere. It's everywhere and not enough places sometimes. So we spend a lot of time marketing the brand. We continue to do that. We collaborate heavily with the CVB Experience Burnsville and the Chamber of Commerce on our marketing activities, working on some placemaking activities. So that's what we've done in the last 2 years on that. So when I started to put this plan together, I thought, oh my goodness, we've done a lot. We really have done a lot in the last 2 years, and I hope you feel the same. Next slide. What do we have looking forward to this year? We're hoping to get our special legislation passed with this legislative session. We will know that in a couple of months. Regina and the planners are working on the AUAR, so I think you're aware of that. We had an update from the EQB on the whole environmental process a few months ago. We are working to collaborate with our partners this year. We will be rolling out what's called a Hidden Gems box, and that is a box that has promotional materials in it from the Experience Burnsville and the Chamber of Commerce about what's great about Burnsville. There's things to do in there. There's some promotions. If you're a tourist here, we're looking to use those boxes to give to people who are selling our community. Give to the realtors, give to our employers that are hiring and recruiting people, new residents to the city. So that's kind of who our market is for that. Regarding the Heart of the City goal, we have 2 new apartments that are coming in. Chase is in for permits on Nicollet Plaza, and then you've heard about the MWF project. That will be in for plat. We expect them to submit, if not this month, April. So they are in discussions with us on a submittal. And then if we've got time, it is on our list to update that HLC framework update like we talked about at the all-day work session. Implementing the housing plan that we recently adopted. You'll be seeing something very shortly in a partnership with the Center for Energy and Environment to do energy audits, and also some technical service updates. We've got some meetings in the work about one of the things we had heard about is folks need resources, right? Can the city refer architects, contractors, that kind of thing. So we're looking to up kind of and be more helpful when people come in for permits and are coming to the city for help. What can we give them? So we'll be working on that. And then lastly, under our marketing and regional destination goal, we're looking to get some new inflatable letters. Our letters have taken a beating the last 18 months, the big white "Why You Belong Here" letters. So working with a local company, Landmark, that does Landmark Creations on County Road 42 that does inflatables, and looking to have something that's easy to transport and that will last us a little bit longer. And we're also looking at some multilingual welcome signs, "You Belong Here," in multiple languages that we can put at our events and in our parks. So we're looking at that, and then certainly our e-newsletter, "You Belong Here" newsletter that goes out about every 3 weeks, once a month at the latest. So next slide. With that, I'll just let you know, and the EDC is well aware of this, but for others, in that You Belong Here newsletter, we do provide updates kind of on the 5 objectives or the 5 priorities. And then also there's an update given at the end of every Economic Development Commission meeting on our Economic Development Strategic Plan. So staff provides the highlights to the EDC. So we make sure we're continually sharing that information. Okay. And with that, Madam Mayor, members of the council, the details of each strategy was in the background. I didn't want to go through that, trying to keep it all high level, but I will stand for any questions, and Regina is here as well.
Thank you. Are there members of the commission have any questions, or members of the council? Any questions for Jenny and staff?
Elizabeth, I have a question for Jenny.
Councilmember Gustafson, yes.
Jenny, can you give us a thought of the track we're on right now? Is it, I know we have a lot of people circling. I know you guys are really busy. Are we getting back to the 2019 levels where the interest in the city is growing and we're working on many projects that could potentially come through?
I will say we have a lot of activity with the multifamily housing like we did in 2019. We issued several permits, and then there was a lag when COVID first hit because people didn't know what was going to happen, right? So, but once things cleared up, people's plans, developers' plans started to move forward. The financial markets are very strong. Rates are very good right now for the developers, and rental is hot. And so we continue to see a lot of growth in that area, a lot of inquiries in that area. So I would say we probably have, in addition to the work in Heart of the City, maybe 3 or 4 other substantial developments. And I know Regina's been getting a lot of calls about Center Village and working on stuff on the 42 corridor. So yeah, we're busy. And lots going on, that's for sure. There's a lot of opportunity to be had right now in the market.
I'm looking forward to a year of getting this back on track again to those levels. So thank you.
Yeah, and if I can, Councilmember Gustafson, the council, you've made a lot of changes to the ordinances too. We talked recently, remember when the Cohan group was in here. We don't have height limits, right? And they were very surprised for that. We've changed a lot of the standards with the TOD ordinance, and so to be more business and user friendly. So that has not gone unnoticed on the development community either.
So Jeff could build a taller building?
Jeff can build a really tall building.
Yeah, we'll have a skyline now. So members of the commission, if you have a question, just raise your hand and I can recognize you. So, but first I'll go to Councilmember Workman.
Thank you, and whoever wants to answer this, Ken, I'm just wondering if there's been any specific updates related to the ISD 191 project, we'll call it. Is there anything that you could mention specifically that we've seen some progress in that category?
Well, the strategies that we had aligned with that really has to do with collaboration and partnerships, right? And so we've had a partners group that meets quarterly, and Regina attends that and try to collaborate and do cross-marketing and cross-promotion. The biggest challenge with that is we can do as much as we want at the city end, but the partnership takes two. And the school district has had a lot on their plate right now with their school closings and their study that they did. And now with COVID, that I would say we're kind of in a pause state with kind of their level of participation and them pushing out information to us so we can help promote that. But certainly the partnership with the Chamber's been at the table, Experience Burnsville's been at that table regularly, doing what we can. Regina, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, in the coming year, one of the things that we want to help elevate with them is their Pathways program. And we've done so before, but I think leading up to Manufacturing Week in October, we hope to help market some of the programming that they do in collaboration with not only the school district, but also the Chamber as well. And then we've also done some highlighting of, I know it's not necessarily the specific high school, elementary, or middle school, but we've done some promotion of community education programs that the school district offers through some of our either staycation promotion that we've done or date night promotion and kind of cross-sharing some of that.
And I think one differentiator that they've kind of set up again is their virtual academy. I mean, the ideas seem to be flowing over there, and they're certainly working hard. So I appreciate the information.
Thank you.
And Councilmember Workman, when you look at the strategies under that goal, a couple of them have to do with redevelopment in the city to improve our image. I think of the Riverview Center that we've been talking about for potential redevelopment. Some of this is on us, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Develop a communications plan that highlights the positive attributes of the community, selling Burnsville as a whole. So certainly, we're certainly trying to do as much as we can in that space to the extent that our partners are willing to collaborate and be a part of that.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Or people.
Well, Jenny and staff, I don't see any other questions. Thank you so much. Great work, you guys. Really well done. Thank you. Yeah, I see a thumbs up from commissioners, so thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you all very much. It's a fun project to be a part of, so thank you to our commissioners and to the council and staff. Thank you.
Yeah, and we look forward to approval of the authority for tax increment financing district for Center Village, right?
Absolutely, Mayor. We are going to, third time is the charm, is what I say.
Yep, yep. And I think we are going before the tax committee. Are we going before them? We've already gone before the House.
Correct.
And now we have the combined tax committee, the Senate and the House.
Right, we're working on the Senate side at this point. Yep, we do not have a hearing scheduled quite yet, but to Jenny's point, third time's the charm.
Yeah, and we keep working around it. So thank you, everybody. We are We will get there. Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is also informational item, and this is Grow Burnsville Sustainability and Food Opportunity Presentation. And our Public Works Director, Ryan Peterson, is going to present what we have, and we also have with us Sue Bast, our Environmental Specialist. Mr.
Right.
Peterson.
Well, thank you very much. Sue will give the bulk of the presentation tonight, but I'll start it off. And we couldn't be more excited to be here to discuss this fantastic topic. We completed our sustainability plan last year and had all these different things that we want to accomplish regarding sustainability in there. I never thought in a million years that food and food security and these kinds of things would be the first one we'd get to. But this amazing opportunity opened up, and we put together a really quality application. And here we are with $125,000 to improve the food aspects and diversity and inclusion and everything else associated with trying to reach all of our different populations. So with that, I'll go to the next slide, please. And I think maybe I really summarized what I said there already. We got this from the U.S. Conference of Mayors. An award for sustainability and environmental health and childhood obesity prevention. It was a major part of our sustainability plan. We got a $125,000 grant to Grow Burnsville. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Sue, and Sue can go through the different aspects of Grow Burnsville and what you can expect and what the community can expect to see this year regarding this tremendous initiative.
Hi, I'm Sue Bast, Environmental Specialist and Sustainability Coordinator. Next slide, please. Very exciting to finish up the work, the sustainability plan, and then immediately get to design a program that has all of the, a number of the actions that we wanted to do right in the plan. So this Grow Burnsville grew right out of the sustainability plan that was adopted in November of 2020. Next slide, please. Some of the things that were in the plan that we are using under community health was to encourage local gardening, composting, and reducing chemical fertilizers. Also in community health, create more neighborhood gardens, plant fruit-bearing trees and shrubs for low-maintenance food source. Under food, local food, identify, map, and prioritize food insecure areas and populations. And then in the solid waste and recycling, promote compost sites and work with the county on an organics drop-off site. Next slide. So the components of this program are first actual infrastructures. So this is actual gardens that will continue in the future. And then there's youth training, public education about gardening, and then events and public engagement in the different aspects of gardening and composting. Next slide. One of the first things with the infrastructure changes is an organics drop-off site that would be located in Burnsville. Specifically, we're working with the county and having discussions with them and looking at a civic center site. So what is an organics drop-off? Well, for households that collect their organics and keep that out of the waste stream. So that's what we're trying to collect at the site and turn that into a soil amendment, compost it and turn it into a soil amendment. So that helps bring down the garbage that we produce. Next slide, please. And then we're going to have, for the other infrastructure, we're going to have 3 different types of gardens: a food forest, a community garden, and a market garden. Next slide. So I've received a lot of questions about what is a food forest. Well, it is a very low maintenance permaculture type of garden that has different levels, we can talk about apple trees, nut trees, berry bushes, and around the ground cover might be strawberries. And these would be planted, and there would be free access for residents to come and pick the fruit and the vegetables. Next slide. Then we have a community garden, and that is built on our existing community garden that we have in Burnsville. And it's to encourage residents to engage in physical activity and have a healthy diet. Next slide. The last garden is called a market garden, and that is, we would be working with youth, and they would have internships this summer and work in the garden to understand the gardening process and what to do with the fruits and vegetables at harvest time. Next slide. We have tried to find the right spots, and we are in the process of looking for the place for those different gardens. And there is a site selection process. We're working with our GIS specialists and other people in the city. Some of the things that we absolutely need is that it needs to be on city property. There has to be sun access, water access, and good soil. That's what gardens need. But also we're looking at that it needs to be near low-income and diverse populations, and we're hoping that we can get it near an elementary school. Next slide. The market garden will have internships, youth internships, and we'll have a garden manager, part-time garden manager, and they will prepare the garden, install the plants, and provide maintenance of the garden. And doing that, they'll learn life skills about gardening and about working with others and how to use that produce that the garden, what's grown in the garden. Next slide. The gardening education will work with Dakota County Master Gardeners, and when we have different events, we'll hopefully get the Dakota County Master Gardeners to come out and talk to people about how to start a garden, or if they have a garden, what if there's problems, how to solve those problems. We're looking for a volunteer to be a champion for that gardening process, and also a champion for composting. We have started to look into different kinds of garden starter kits that we'll be giving away at different events, like the tree sale and the native plant sale, other kinds of events that will get people interested in trying out if they have never worked in a garden before or had a garden before, something that will be interesting and fun to work on. We have already looked into some seed packets with for pollinators, pollinator seeds, and so that'll be kind of fun for people to use those. Next slide. They're also looking at events and engagement, and we're calling it Party in the Garden and Chef in the Garden, and we'll be finding chefs that will work with the produce that's coming out of the gardens and show people how to prepare that nutritious harvest that they get from the gardens. We'll be looking at the International Festival, Art and All That Jazz, and Harvest Party to create interest about gardening and eating nutritious food and preparing it properly. Next slide. So the events that we're looking at, the tree sale is April 30th, and we're hoping to have a presence at that event. May Day Run, May 1st, native plant sale, May 15th, party on the plaza, June 10th, and we are working on having a presence at all of those events. And then International Festival, all art and all that jazz, and then Harvest Party. Next slide. So, it is a lot for, it's already spring almost. I mean, it was so beautiful and warm, I felt like we could start gardening right today. And we did introduce this program at an all-employee meeting, and had a very enthusiastic response from all the staff, and it was just fun to get emails and calls, and how can I help, and what can I do, and have you heard of this chef, and that chef, and so we're moving forward very quickly, so that's great. Next slide, please. The sustainability team, which has been going, and which is an ongoing employee team, is helping to facilitate this program. The sustainability team worked on the sustainability plan and have been around since 2009 when we first started the sustainability plan. And we have a number of sub-teams divided up. So one is the site selection and design of the gardens. Another one is events and public engagements, communication, hiring the interns, different teams like that. And not only is the sustainability team working in those areas, but we have asked other employees to come and help with us figuring everything out too, and have had a great response. So it will get done. Next slide, please. Then we have hired a consultant, Ted Redmond of Pale Blue Dot, and he assisted us with developing the sustainability plan. So he's very familiar with what our goals are, how we want to have this program turn out. And then as a subcontractor, Urban Roots is a nonprofit organization, and their mission is to cultivate and empower youth through nature, healthy food, and community. And they'll be working in the Market Garden program that we're having. Next slide.
All right.
Let's turn it over to Ryan.
I get to do the last couple here.
Okay.
So people may be asking, well, what happens after this year? It's great you're getting all this stuff going, but how do we keep this thing moving into the future? That's a really good question. What we're confident is that there are going to be community members who are excited about this and who want to participate. Remember last year, we didn't have staff available to do our weeding and all that at our those entrance monument signs, those planter, and we put it out and we had people volunteering in no time to take care of it. So we really think we're going to get a lot of community support on this, and it's going to be able to continue things, especially our community garden. I'm very confident that that's going to be able to go forward into the future, and the food forest is supposed to be basically a sustainable thing. I can use the word sustainable how often, but so it's going to require some. I think Public Works will be preparing the area in the spring and the fall, but I think the ongoing maintenance, that crew, we can't be having out weeding it. It's just not going to work. But I think as long as we prep it, that we will be getting the necessary community support to do so. Things that we're going to have to evaluate are all the great events we talked about, the chef in the park. We'll have to gauge the city council's interest on wanting to fund things like that. So we're not proposing at this point that we need to continue with all that forward, but maybe we'll find out it's the greatest thing ever and we want to do some of this, and then we can provide a cost of what it would take to move forward. We will be very much collaborating with Garrett's group in recreation and all that they're doing on all those different events that we're talking about. So there is a starting place to go from there. We're not having to put these events on from ground zero. So I guess my message is the infrastructure we're putting in place is, I foresee that being able to move forward and being a long-term success. The market garden, that's hiring a part-time person, and youth we would be bringing on would also be paid a small hourly wage as well. So we'd have to consider whether we think that the value to those youth is worth the cost there, and we'll be bringing that forth to you as well if we want to continue with the market garden and seeing the youth both learn how to garden and how to learn some entrepreneur skills. That's here. I would say organics recycling. We hope to have that involved in 2021. We are hoping to get some financial support from Dakota County. They've indicated that they will likely help us, but we haven't gotten that finalized yet. And that would be something we'd be moving forward with as well long-term. They have committed to, if we put the facility in place, to paying for the truck to come and get the organics and bring it off to a place that would turn it into those soil amendment types of materials that Sue talked about. So that would be Grow Burnsville 2022 and beyond as I see it. And I think the next side is questions and comments. So Sue and I are both available.
Okay, Councilmember Keeley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question on the organics. You noted it'll be in 2021, based on how quickly things are moving. Dakota County has 2 sites set up. Do you think that is maybe by summertime possibility to have that in place? And do you have any idea where the location might be in Burnsville?
If we can negotiate a good financial arrangement with Dakota County, yes, I agree with the summer. If we're able to do so, the likely location would be near the ice rink in Civic Center campus, across from the ice center, the outdoor rink we have there.
Sure.
In that general location.
Relatively central in the
Yeah.
city, so pretty good.
Nice parking area there, so you can get
Yeah.
off the road and all that sort of thing.
Right.
So what we need is a concrete pad and then exterior that blocks it, and also it would have kind of like a lock. So you'd have to have the code, so you'd have to contact us to get into there, and then we'd give it out to whomever would want it. But does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Well, fire muster will generate some organics, so it'll be a short walk to get.
There we
put it
go.
all in.
We can meet their ordinance requirements for our composting and food prep.
So Ryan, into the future, last night at our Lions meeting, I talked to them about Grow Burnsville and the food forest and all of that, and they want to help.
Awesome.
So, we need to make sure that perhaps you and Sue would present to the Lions what this is all about, and what are some of the things that the Lions can do to help with the gardens, volunteers at the gardens, or possibly looking to the future, some funding.
Awesome. Well, we know the Lions gets things done.
Yes.
They
The other
certainly do.
part also, as I was listening, the summer youth programs, there are dollars there for summer youth programs. So for your seasonal help for this, there are funds that can come out of, I believe there's a deed program, but there's also a federal program for that. So
Okay.
I'll look into that as well.
Any
So,
help?
if we're going to continue with it, how are we going to continue to fund it?
Mm-hmm.
And so there are some great programs. The summer youth program is one that popped into my head, and there are funds for that,
We're all ears.
yeah.
Councilmember Gustafson.
Yes, I'll get to Councilmember Gustafson. First go to Councilmember Schultz.
So I am very excited about this presentation, all parts of it. I remember my first year on council, and I was talking about food forests, and we had a lot of banter back and forth on that. I'm like, how about if we just start showing up with fruit trees? Would you just plant them? So to see this happen is, it's beyond exciting. This was one of those things that sparked a desire in me to be on city council. Because I feel so strongly about this. You know, I was part of the, you know, grow lawns, not throw bombs movement and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it just, I am beyond, it's so incredible to see that this is actually happening. You know, to see the food forest, to get that youth program with that market garden, and to expand the community gardens, which was another area I've just been hoping and hoping would happen. So I mean, thank you to staff. Thank you for making this happen. I cannot even express the depth of my gratitude on this. This is something that is going to have such an incredibly good impact on our community. And I love these events that you're tying into it. You know, with Burnsville, with the paths that we have, with our parks, with our regional medical center. I mean, everything is moving towards us being recognized as a place to look to for health and wellness. And that also includes our arts scene and our music scene, because that's an important component of overall wellness. And so to see these events being tied into this, you know, feeling of holistic wellness as well, man, you guys are knocking it out of the park. Seriously, this is incredible. Kudos to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Councilmember Gustafson.
Like Kara, I am thrilled with this. You guys getting quite the bang for the buck. It's very well rounded. It encompasses the entire community in many different aspects and activities. I can't think of a better use of this money right now in our city as we are slowly working our way towards normality again, which whatever that's going to be. But I think it's absolutely fabulous. I'm just thrilled. And Kara, I do remember that conversation 5 years ago when you first got on council and talking about the fruit forest and that.
Yes.
How are we going to deal with that? Or we're not. At that time we weren't. But
Right.
I'm so happy today we have gotten there. And you know, we've really evolved in this city. Things change, and I'm really pleased that we have a council and a staff that changes, and we find ways to get things done that are good for the citizens of the city. So again, I thank you the same. I was reading everything you're doing. I'm like, man, they got bang for the dollar on that one. Bring us more stuff like that. Thank you.
Well, you know, as Ryan and Sue said, because when I read our sustainability plan, we've done a great deal and accomplished a great deal from the 2009 plan. And then this is the plan that moves us into 2040. And when I saw all of those pieces that expands on what we did with the community gardens, and I remember the first community garden out by Neil when we put that in. And yes, water is going to be a big thing because we had to connect water there, we had to connect water over at Woke. And so, yeah, those are some of the things. We all need to understand that there's dollars attached to all of this. And as Ryan and Sue said, you know, we weren't going to get to the food was down on the priority list because, but for this grant, it helps us to elevate all of that. And I remember looking into what other cities have done with regard to food forest, which is an exciting concept, because back then when you looked at food forests, this is where when you have fruit trees and you have vegetables and you have berries and all of that, and people can go and pick them and take them home. Now they're eating healthy. And it's not like this is being planted, but you can't touch it and you can't pick it. I remember there are places that you can't pick it. You can go and admire it, but you can't pick it unless you pay for it. This one, it belongs to the community. So, Ryan and Sue, thank you for, first of all, writing a great plan, And also, when I sent the opportunity to Melanie and Ryan, you acted on it very quickly, and then we had to submit our application and make sure we hit all the points to succeed and to get this first place award. So, thank you, Melanie.
And Madam Mayor, I want to just build on that a little bit. Sue and Ryan have done an amazing job, but I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the many, many staff that are also helping with this. And Sue commented that we've had a lot of people lining up to help. And I think that's just really inspirational that our team is kind of all pulling together for this initiative. So I want to make sure that everyone is acknowledged for their work, because it really truly does take a village for these kinds of initiatives.
But what's nice is that it's exciting, and our staff are all saying, yeah, we'll help. I remember, when we did the Heart of the City, everybody wanted to do something. These are exciting things. And the same thing with the first sustainability plan. Everybody, every department, because now I look and sustainability plan is like the umbrella, because everything you do in public works is under sustainability, and that also helped us in every department. It's everything that we do to help our planet, to help our environment. I remember those discussions that we care about the environment, and we care about the health of our community, and we care about energy efficiency. And look at it now, we have reduced our carbon use in the community. And I love the stuff that's coming up with regard to the solar gardens. And I have been watching the EECBG, this is the Energy Block Grant. There's some money in there. I'll send you the opportunities.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments?
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to, if you don't mind,
Yes.
just point out the power of the plan. If you hadn't funded the plan, none of this comes together, because we don't know where to start from and what we're doing. So, you gave us a lot of kudos, which we are happy to accept, and now we've got the bar set very high, so we got to perform. But the power of the plan, that we're willing to do these kinds of plans, and other communities don't have them, so they can't pull these grants. We didn't have Grow Burnsville in the plan.
Yeah.
It was finding out what they wanted, and then taking different elements from it and combining it into one. And, we haven't talked about Ted, except that he's part of the group. You may remember him, but he was instrumental in helping us formulate it as well, so kudos to him. So you talked about that solar one. We had the Dakota Electric person was part of our group when we put the plan together.
Yeah.
He remembered it, and he came to us
Yeah.
with this electric first thing that we're gonna be submitting soon. So I think you've heard of that. I hope I'm not,
Yeah.
and, it's just the power of the plan. And, Jenny's economic development plan, when we have these plans, it really helps you move forward on things. So I just highly recommend we continue with these types of things, because you can't win these grants without them.
Thank you, because if you don't have a plan, you don't have a pathway to get to where you want to go. And if you have a plan, then you know how you're going to what resources you need. Not only human resource, but you need financial resource to make it happen. And that's what we need to do and continue to do. So thank you, Ryan, for your leadership. Thank you, Sue, for your continuous work on sustainability and everything that we've accomplished from the 2009 plan and now in this plan. Thank you so much. And Melanie, for your leadership, thank you. Members of the council, there are no other items to come before us this evening. We have roundtable reports. I'll start with Councilmember Keeley.
Why are you smiling?
I know why.
There's a lot going on in transportation these days, so sit back, get your water bottle, and enjoy. I did share something with City Manager Lee today. She has been tuning into our NLC Transportation Infrastructure Subcommittee, which is unmanned aircraft advisory forum. And it was we had a meeting today as part of the National League of Cities Congress of Cities event, and we had two presenters. company called Joby Aviation, which is an air taxi for taking two people anywhere they want to go. It's an interesting looking aircraft, all electric, fairly quiet. They showed a video that they had just came up with showing a test flight recently. There's a couple other companies that I've been reading about actually and sharing with the group in this same space. And they're getting a lot of money from various places, in some cases airlines, in some cases car companies. But the other company that presented was Wing, which is a drone delivery service. Now it's a little bit more maybe in our near future, as we all know. Wing did a pilot program in Christiansburg, Virginia, and it's been going on for over a year, so they've got a lot of great intel and feedback, and they've learned a lot. Their drones are about 3 foot long, 10 pounds. They carry a payload of 3.3 pounds, and it can go up to 6 miles. There's 12 props to elevate and 2 props for forward propulsion. And this particular one doesn't have a claw of some sort and then have to drop it all the way to the ground to set the package down. It actually uses a cable. And it drops it basically stays hovering and drops the package and then releases it and goes back up. Which presented a whole string of questions from our group. And I remember, and it was fairly rapid fire through the comment section, but I wrote down 12 of them. And a couple were just very interesting. People were talking about, of course, flyover paths. Let's say you're a home that doesn't use drone delivery, but you keep hearing the drones fly over your house all the time. So handling, some complaints. I asked the question how public safety was involved in that. Up front, they did make the statement that they really made it a point to ensure that the entire community was engaged and involved, in all stakeholders, residents, before they actually launched the pilot. But the mayor had some very positive comments about it and was very supportive of it and found it. Kids really loved it, like it was this new toy, right? They could have, candy or food delivery delivered to them by a drone. Other things like, other air traffic and concerns for how that would interact when this, thinking long-term, if there's a lot of drone delivery for food and Amazon and Walmart and Target deliveries, et cetera. Currently, all unmanned must respect and obey any piloted aircraft, so they are second tier. And there are software programs. We were given a presentation in our last month meeting. Kitty Hawk is one particular one, and there was another one in January that we were presented when the FAA presented of software that actually, it's kind of like sitting in the control tower at the airport on your iPad, and it's got the map and it shows where all the piloted aircraft is and the elevation of that and the elevation of your drone and flight patterns and that kind of stuff. So it's pretty sophisticated. But interesting questions came up about, like what happens if the dog jumps up and grabs the cable, bites on the cable, and doesn't want to let go. Their particular model is built with or equipped with a emergency release, so they'll disengage the cable if needed. But none of those circumstances have come up. But like I said, just a flood of great questions were popping all over the place. Private property delivery versus city. Can sidewalks or streets be a delivery landing zone for an item? With a 3.3 pound payload, it's really going to be pretty light. I don't think you can get a couple of, double Whoppers and some fries and a malt or two and weigh less than 3.3 pounds. So some restrictions. But I thought it was very interesting, and for this particular city, for a year, they've experienced this, and they're sort of, vetting out learning a lot of things. One of the key things moving forward is prescription delivery, and this particular company is working with Walgreens to put together a prescription delivery program. I did ask about costs, and others did too. They currently are funding it to where they're not charging, they are charging the merchant who signs up something, but I couldn't get an answer on what the average or typical delivery fee that was being added to, let's say, your food order coming via drone. But I did write the mayor, and he wrote back that he didn't really know what, but he deferred and sent my email on to the company representative. So I'm kind of anxious to see it. Did they set it at like $10 or $15? I mean, it's convenience. It's a similar convenience to, you know, a lot of the delivery services today, DoorDash, Grubhub, et cetera. So I'm not sure, because they're competing with that, just what kind of quote price you could pay for the, you know, maybe the entertainment value of being the first one to get your lunch delivered by drone. But so more to come on that. A lot of economic benefits they were citing, working with school districts and of course remote places in need. They did note that they have delivered over 100,000 so far deliveries, and over 10,000 of those deliveries are to customers in this Christiansburg, Virginia pilot test. They are also delivering in Canberra, Australia, and Helsinki, Finland. And they began under a U.S. DOT pilot program, and they were actually the first company to receive a certification for running their operation. So a lot of firsts coming out of the company. Very, very interesting. This is the kind of stuff that, you know, if you're kind of a tech geek like me, really just, this couldn't get better. It's awesome. So TIS, of course, we're working on and talking about and monitoring all of the federal transportation, and there's a lot of exciting things coming. I passed along some things to Mr. Peterson. And
Councilmember Keeley,
yes.
for people who are listening, you better let
Stop
them know
using
what
acronyms.
TIS
Oh,
is.
Transportation Infrastructure Services
Services.
Committee. Yes, TIS Committee, sorry. Yeah, too many acronyms, especially with all this technology, so it's real easy to get to talk about those. So we're, you know, there's a lot going on in Washington with the, and I've referred to it as the, you know, the lottery of printing money and doling it out. I think infrastructure is, aside from that, you know, aside from the CARES Act and what's going on with that particular bill, they're looking at an infrastructure bill, and some will like this, some will not, but a new version of earmarks is making its way back into Congress. Earmark Light, I believe it's been referred to, giving each member of Congress the ability to have maybe submit 10 projects, infrastructure projects within their districts, and
They have to meet certain categories.
surely it's all
Yeah.
qualified, et cetera, but the likely, you know, the thought is maybe 2 or 3 might get picked by the time it's all said and done, but to submit the top 10. So we are putting a few projects that we would like to get some federal funding on. It's not really clear at this point whether there's a local match, but traditionally there is, so there may be. But I did cite in an email to Ryan today that the elevated trail on the I-35 bridge, which MnDOT didn't plan as part of the bridge plan, to get it above floodplain, or at least 75-year floodplain. Maybe we made the 100-year, maybe not, but we definitely got up a lot higher. That started out as I think Mr. Peterson put in a federal grant, and we got it. So then we were sort of backtracking to, you know, fill the rest. And I think he went after some additional grants, the city did, to backfill it. So I'm not sure what ultimately came out of Burnsville taxpayers, but obviously it was a good investment, and the majority of it was paid for with federal and other matching grant funds. So that's a good example of sometimes we get the Fed funds first, and then we come looking for other money. Let's see, boy, MBTA, some interesting things going on in the STA world of Met Transit and Met Council and the opt-outs. We're learning, and a letter is going to be sent to Chair Zelli and some staff, and it'll be shared with all of our legislative representatives. It will be shared with all of the Transportation Committee members in both the House and Senate. Opt-outs were told that if they had any buses that needed to be replaced because they are at the end of their useful life, to pause or halt all submissions for those bus replacements. It would sound logical on the surface that that would be done, given the pandemic and the lack of ridership across the system. However, we have one route that runs from the Mall of America to Burnsville Transit Station that has 85% of its pre-pandemic ridership. One of the most successful routes in the entire metro area. Our suburb-to-suburb service as a whole is pushing almost 70% of pre-pandemic, and it actually only went down to about 63% as a low. So those buses continue to run and have for the last year. Clearly our express buses are not being utilized as much as they were, but they're still running. Some of them still are. They just aren't carrying the number of people, but we still have to have a service level that carries those people who do need to get to downtown. So maybe it's not as many buses or as many routes, or frequency of route, but it's still obviously there. So when our organizations providing bus service and transit service to our suburbs found out that the Met Council was continuing to approve bus replacement for Metro Transit, you can imagine that we were a little concerned. So that's the issue we're addressing now. How ironic. Other than that, we are finishing some work at our Burnsville Transit Station, some construction going on for a little updating and upgrades. And let's see, I-35 Solutions. Yeah, there's another transportation thing. Where's my current notes? You know, I've got so many notes. It's hard to keep all those straight.
Almost got out of here in an hour.
We got a,
I see you're packed up, you're packed up.
yeah. Hey, this is probably one of the shortest work sessions we've had in a long time.
Could have been.
Well, are you trying to make it long then?
I've said enough, thank you.
No, Dan, keep going. I'm just teasing you.
Okay.
No, I'm good. I-35, no, there's nothing really major going on there, actually.
Kara?
Kind of happening in the federal one.
Okay, so we met for Dakota County broadband, and then we actually have another meeting coming up pretty quick. So, and what we're trying to get a handle on is how that federal grant is going to affect our area, and also how does that affect our mission, and where do we now fit into that? So we're having to kind of back up quite a bit. And we've put most everything on hold at the moment, just because we're very up in the air on this and we need more information on it. So I'm hoping that's more of the information we get at this next meeting. And then I will relay back what we find out about that. I also know that we're going to be looking at asking each of our members, okay, it's been a number of years. What are you looking to get from this for your city? You know, why are you involved? Just to check back in and see why each city is involved in it and what they're hoping to accomplish, and just clearly articulating it so that, you know, we all know what our vision is together. So I would ask council to think about what, you know, what does Burnsville want out of it? How do we articulate that and do so in like 2 or 3 sentences, like very clear sentences? So that is something I wanted to bring to council, also to our city manager, so that we can do that and we can articulate that clearly. I don't need that for the next meeting, it probably the one following that.
Okay. Vince?
Fire muster board met last week and we are going to proceed and start raising money and getting things ready for 2021. which means sponsorships and all the logistics, including how to do it safely and by the governor's orders. And DCC did meet, but I had a child emergency that kept me from that meeting, so I unfortunately don't have anything to report on that right now.
Okay. Councilmember Gustafson.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Let's see, our MLC meeting is pushed to the 24th of this month because of the legislative session. But one of the things that is of concern, and Melanie and I have been on top of it, and that is a Senate Bill 915 that has to do with taking away local control on municipal planning and zoning. And so Senator Lindsay Port is on the committee, on the House Finance Committee, and this is a bill by Senator Draheim. And I've been texting back and forth. They met today, so I don't know the outcome of that. I haven't seen anything, but I said, you know, local control, we know what we're doing. I wanted to say each and every one of us also have an election certificate, and we are the closest to the people and the things that we do. And we need control on land use, zoning, and code. So we'll see where that goes. I haven't seen anything.
I have a quick update if you'd like, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, please do.
The committee passed it out on a vote. It'll go to local government committee. There were amendments that were offered during the hearing, but they were not available. I was watching on YouTube. They were not available for the public. So I still haven't seen what those amendments all are. We have also been in contact with Senator Port, and she's been great to just ask us what we think about it, and we're able to provide that feedback. So it has been referred on, and we are continuing to watch it.
Yeah.
What's the goal?
I can tell you, Senator Port is so good. I text her, and yesterday when I found out about this, and she replied right away also. And so she's doing the same thing with Melanie, but I have no idea.
High level, Councilmember Workman is, the bill proposes sort of removal of local control, including the inability to use PUDs.
Right.
Under most circumstances, removing aesthetic requirements that a city might have in place, adding building permits to the 60-day timeline, and other sort of just general conditions that cities have historically had land use decision over. Housing First is key in this discussion, and it's the suggestion that these building permits are driving the costs of housing and impacting housing affordability. I could go into much more detail, perhaps we could talk in our one-on-one.
But is that the initiative of the goal, is to reduce housing costs? Because looking at it, it seems like they're throwing everything out that cities have authority over with development, and it's kind of ridiculous.
And that's been our concern, and that's what we've communicated, is the remedies that are being proposed don't seem to align with
what they're saying.
The problem that they're saying they're trying to resolve. We know that housing affordability, we've got quite a bit of NOAA housing here in Burnsville.
Right.
But when you look at new housing, the driving costs are labor and land.
Yeah.
And now energy efficiencies and everything else, unfunded mandates and such.
Yeah.
So-
The thing is, it isn't our cost, but they're deflecting it to us when it isn't. It is land and labor. And look at all of the housing that's being built, whether it's multi-housing, senior housing, or single family. It's not stopping any of those developers. So, it's
I
not
couldn't
good.
believe it got as far as it did.
Yeah, so anyway, that's what's going on with MLC, but we don't have a meeting until the 24th. And the Regional Council of Mayors, because NLC has its winter meeting, the March meeting, we will meet next week. And the Burnsville Community Foundation, we're working on raising money for the lighting for this coming year, and also it's a snowflake year. And then the International Festival Committee is meeting at this right now, so I don't have an update on that. So that's the end of my report, and if there's nothing else, Melanie, anything else that?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, great. With that, we stand adjourned by acclamation at 7.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Good night, everybody.